What's up, duelists? Today, I'm going to be talking about the deck that I had ranked the highest in my matchup spreadsheet chart for Edison format, which is fairies. Spoiler alert, if you didn't watch my matchup spread video yesterday, go ahead and check that out. Do I think fairies is the best deck in Edison format? More or less. It's definitely one of the best two. I think this deck and Blackwings are probably my pick for the best two. They're the two decks that in the dark I've had the most win percentage with. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about why. I've already made an ultimate guide on this deck, and I think a lot of the ultimate guide covers the basics, but I'm going to talk about a little bit more of the nuanced theory behind this and why I think it's so deceptively good. The card Herald of Orange Light in a vacuum just looks like a -1, right? But the fact is, it's not just a -1. It's a -1 that's incredibly hard to interact with in this format. On top of that, this format is completely dominated by Caius the Shadow Monarch. Let me pull that little guy up. Caius the Shadow Monarch is a very powerful card in this format. It is the most played card by a large margin. This card takes a normal summon. This card gets a powerful effect if its tribute summon is successful, and it does take another monster in play to normal summon. So when you factor in the metagame, which is everyone's playing McFucking Caius the Shadow Monarch, Herald of Orange Light is actually insane, because it's usually going to be a 2-for-2 against your opponent's best card, and then on top of that, you're buying 2 normal summons. And then on top of that, they can't even interact with this card. They can't Heavy Storm, they can't Space Typhoon. They're basically just forced to play into it. There's no level of interaction. It's very unfair. And at the very least, you draw this card, and your opponent isn't activating a ton of effects. Okay, fine. They don't activate anything you want to herald. It is still a tuner. It's still a card that can help you make the 2 best synchros in the format, which are yugioh and Bryo, or the 2 best generic synchros, I should say. So this card's absolutely insane. I mean, it's just like one of the best cards into the metagame. It helps you against unfair decks. It helps you against fair decks. It helps you close out games within the first 2 turns very frequently. It makes it very difficult for opponents to come back once they're behind 2-3 summons. And yeah, that's it pretty much. A lot of other monsters in this deck also have similar effects. So it makes it so that this deck is a back row deck, right? You do get to play Royal Oppression. You do get to play Bottomless Typhoon, whatever, back row. Typhoon's not a back row, but you get what I'm saying. You get to play back row, but your monsters also have these secondary effects, which kill shit. So it's very hard to play through that with just a Heavy Storm. You also have Honest, which is kind of like a monster back row. You have Thunder King, which is a monster back row, so to speak. And then you have Christia, which I don't even say. This is a monster back row that draws a card, summons for free, and is the best boss monster in the format. So you have a lot of really broken ways of interacting with things even after your back row's been cleared by Heavy Storm and Typhoon. If your opponent wants to beat you, they're usually going to need Heavy Storm, Typhoon, more than that. And then on top of that, if you have Herald and Honest, even beyond all that, they can't even interact with that. So there's like usually 3 layers of setup with this deck, and your opponent can usually play through 1 or 2 of them, and the third one is usually where you win. It feels like checkmate in a lot of different situations and a lot of different games. You'll see some of the replays I'll show you today. The deck is hyper consistent because Shining Angel just not only thins the deck, but it gets you exactly what you need at any given moment. It can get you a DD Warrior Lady, it can get you a Dialk, it can get you an Honest or a Herald. So it can get you to a Synchro monster if you really need to. It can get you your 4 fairies for Christia. It can get you a Grave setup for Soul or Freed. It keeps your monsters in play. So like the way Shining Angel works is if I summon it, you attack over it, I still keep my monster in play. You don't lose your normal summon that easily in this deck because of, Shining Angel. And then when you do, you have burst ways to come back into the game in Soul of Purity and Light and Archlord Christia, as well as Call of the Haunted and Return. In Edison format, there's like 2 factions of decks in my mind in like the top tier. And those are Return decks and Oppression decks. There's Zombies, Diva Hero, whatever, playing Return, Vayu, playing Return. And then there's the other side of it, which is Blackwings and Vayu playing Oppression. Vayu and Fairies are really the only 2 decks that can both play Return and Oppression very effectively. And I think that speaks a lot to those decks' power level. That's why these decks are so insane. You get to play the 2 best trap cards in the format, and you get to play them to the fullest of their potential. This deck does really well with Oppression because a lot of times Oppression decks, the way they lose is they'll flip an Oppression, then they'll die to a beater. This deck does not struggle removing monsters. You have triple DD Warrior Lady, double Raikou, triple Book, bottomless Mirror Force Torrential. You have Honest, you have Herald, you have Thunder King, which is strong. It can run over stuff. Freed can remove monsters, so you have no trouble removing monsters that are strong. And then you also don't really need to special summon with this once Oppression is flipped face up. Yeah, sometimes it sucks when you have like double Christia, double Soul Oppression, but that like very rarely happens. And oftentimes when you're siding in the second oppression, you're usually siding out some combination of your special summon cards like Christia Soul and Call of the Haunted as well. And also you can play like a burnout strategy where you force your opponent into a life point paying position and then just kill them with an Honest randomly. That's another reason this deck is so scary, is it can kill you out of nowhere with Honest. The deck's just ridiculous. Like, every part of it's insane. The only thing that's like kind of like, in my opinion, fair is the triple Book of Moon. But Book of Moon's insane. I mean, it's just so good. It helps you play into Deep Prison, which can give this deck problems. That's probably one of the biggest cards that I think can hurt this deck. But triple Book of Moon means you can just summon Recruiter Slam every single turn. And if they have Deep Prison, you just book it. And you're happy with that. You get to sideboard all the best cards. I mean, you get to sideboard Cyber Dragon, DD Crow, Dust Tornado, Kaiku. These are the best 4 cards in Edison sideboards right now, in my opinion. You can also sideboard Deep Prison, Pulling the Rug, help you with your bad matchups. There's only a few of them. It's just quick draw and frogs, pretty much. And that's it. You get to extra deck the best monsters. You get to extra deck the Ancient Sacred Wyvern, which is a cool card. It's just a really solid deck. Let's go ahead and get into the replays, and maybe you can kind of understand what I'm talking about. Game 1. Opening hand is just solid. Shining Angel gets me DD Warrior Lady. DD Warrior Lady turns on Dialk. It's pretty straightforward stuff once you've practiced with the deck. I think a fair amount. The Shining Angel is going to attack. If he has Deep Prison, I can book it, or I can just let it happen to keep my Alchemist alive. Right now, I don't know what he's playing, so I'm just, probably going to book if he Deep Prisons, because I'd like to keep my Herald live in the dark. He does not, so I get the 1400 in, and I do that under Bottomless Trap Hole, which is really nice. So as you can see, already dodging Bottomless Trap Hole. That's another thing this deck does very well. You have Dialk, you have Shining Angel, you have Triple Book, dodging Bottomless, never a problem. Plus, if you do get Bottomless, you're pretty happy because now your Dialk is live and you can float back into that threat that your opponent really wanted to Bottomless. Summons Alias, I just let this happen. And this is something you have to do when you're playing this deck. You have to say anything before damage pretty much all of the time. Pretty much all of the time. Represent Honest always. Even if your opponent knows your fucking hand, say it anyway. Gaslight them. Literally just say anything before damage every single time. They take the bait and they spark the Angel, which I'm a little bit sad about. I would have liked if I got a DD Warrior Lady and made this Dialk live, but it worked out. They top deck Miracle Fusion, which is pretty dead in their hands. Skill Drain is insane against our deck game 1, but game 2 and 3 we have more outs and we can just play around it. Plus, game 2 and 3 we get a board up to 2 Cyber Dragon, 2 Soul of Purity and Light, and we just have bigger monsters under Skill Drain, so that's pretty much how it goes. We Dust Shoot, take the Captain Gold. Thankfully, Dust Shoot did get a chance to activate this game. It sometimes doesn't happen that way. They shuffle back the Captain Gold. Pardon me. They pass the turn and we top deck Thunder King. Here I do just summon the Thunder King. I attack. They use Bottomless Trap Hole. And I actually use my Book of Moon to protect this Thunder King. So I know about their Cyber Dragon, right? I know about it. Because they're using Bottomless Trap Hole here, I'm like, okay, maybe Bottomless trading for Book is a good thing. I kind of want to keep my Herald live. If he top decks a Stratos, I do want to Herald the Stratos at this point. It keeps him off the 2 Miracle Fusions I know about because he needs a water. Doesn't have a water. And I need to stop that Stratos from happening or else these Miracle Fusions go live and then I'm probably losing the game. So here I Book of Moon the Thunder King. Also, another reason to protect this Thunder King is on the following turn, if he can't get over this Thunder King, which it's very unlikely he's going to be able to through Bottomless Torrential. Well, I guess just through Bottomless. He has to top deck a monster, basically. If he top decks a non-monster card here, I can flip the Thunder King, keep poking, and then it shuts off all of his tutor cards, like E-Call, Rhoda, the cards he hasn't seen yet. So I do think the Thunder King has a little bit more value here than the Book of Moon. Unfortunately, he does top deck Hero Blast, which is one of the best ways to out this Thunder King, because not only is it an out to Thunder King, but it is also a monster for pressure. I'm forced to Bottomless the Cyber Dragon, because I need to protect my Thunder King, of course. I go ahead and draw Christia, which is not a great draw here. As you can see, we only have 3 fairies in circulation because our Angel got popped. So we flip the Thunder King, we attack for 19, and he did top deck Hero Blast, which is a little unfortunate, but it happens sometimes, Sometimes your opponent hits some pretty good top decks and is able to kill you. They set Deep Prison and pass. They don't summon Alias into the back row, which I actually think is interesting. Given their hand, they probably should have, in my opinion, but it's whatevs. We top deck DD Warrior Lady. I just said it. I don't want to play this into a Deep Prison because this can effectively banish an Alias forever, and they only have 3 Alias. So a lot of my game plan game 1 is just banish all 3 Alias and the game ends. Game 2 and 3, it gets a little different. You sort of take on a more aggressive role games 2 and 3, but game 1, if you can, keep the back row clear and then do the thing where you banish all the things. They do end up top decking an E-Call. Unfortunate for us that they top decked this on the turn that not the other thing. You get what I'm saying. You get where I'm going with this. Stratos goes ahead and finds the Nothing, because I herald it. And I pitch Christia here because, like I said, I have 3 fairies. I'd rather have the live Dialk if this gets banished due to like a normal summon crashing with it than have the dead Christia with only 3 fairies in circulation. It's possible this was a mistake in hindsight, but it's also very possible in 4 back rows he has Royal Oppression, which means Christia is just a shit card here anyway. So I'd say I hedge my bets. I pick up Heavy Storm and I'm like, damn, that's crazy. I'm going to wait until I can either force a Royal Oppression or force a Solemn Judgment before I go for this Heavy Storm, because I don't want to activate a Starlight Road right now. I think that would be game-losing mistake. So I go ahead and don't do that. I also know one of these back rows in Miracle Fusion. So I know he's set at least 1 bluff, which tells me he definitely has a protective spell. He definitely has either Solemn or Starlight Road, and it's one of these 2, basically. On this turn, he flips the Skill Drain, normal summons the Alias, I go for Torrential, and here he does activate the Solemn, and I'm like, okay, so I know the 2 new sets. I know one of them is not a protection spell, basically, unless he top decked and set a protection spell, but he wouldn't have set this bluff Miracle Fusion, if he didn't have a protection spell in the first 2. So that's the protection spell I know about. So now I know my Heavy Storm is live. That's something to keep in mind. He goes ahead and attacks with the Alias. Unfortunately, we don't get to banish it, which sucks balls, but hey, what can you do? We top deck Angel. I could Heavy Storm now and then crash the Angel and go into DD Warrior Lady, and I think that would have altered the course of this game quite a bit. I think it would have been the best play in hindsight. I know he has 1 Miracle set. I know he has 1 Miracle in hand, but banishing this Alias here, it probably would have won me the game. And this misplay actually, I think, cost me game 1. It's so stupid, too, because it's such a little misplay. It's something you don't see in the moment, but then once you're reflecting on it, you're like, if I had taken a few more seconds to think, the Heavy Storm is guaranteed live here because his protection spell is gone. All I need to do is Heavy Storm, attack the Alias, grab my DD Warrior Lady, banish his thing. Now my Alchemist is live, my top deck Christias are live because I'm at 4 fairies. It's just a great position to be in. So I think I fucked up, and I think I absolutely choked this game 1. And this is kind of what I was talking about in the matchup spreadsheet, is that there's no free wins with this deck. You have to play perfectly every single turn, and if you fuck up even once, then it costs you the game. Here, unfortunately, he does top deck another monster, puts us up to 5 fairies, which is annoying. I go ahead and grab Honest, but I don't effectively use my Heavy Storm this game, and you'll see why. I try to trade this Thunder King with one of his monsters. Thunder King is only ever going to trade with an Alias anyway, because of the if I Heavy Storm and summon Thunder King and bounce the Honest, I crash over one with the Honest, and then the other one just trades with my Thunder King. So Thunder King's only ever like trading with the Alias anyway, so I might as well just try to trade it here. Unfortunately for us, he did top deck the Deep Prison on that 1 turn, and this is an ineffective use of my resources, so it does clear the Thunder King. He does top deck Captain Gold too, which is the only normal summon monster in his deck besides Cyber Dragon, which you would have to tribute an Alias for, that can attack over Honest. So our plan of stalling out until we have a better position didn't get us there. I made the play to not lose instead of the play to win, and it cost me game 1, which is unfortunate. So that's the way this deck plays sometimes. I mean, it's very punishing, and nobody's perfect with it, right? Here we do have the Heavy Storm set the Raikou, but it's too little too late because he top decks McFucking Future Fusion. We actually probably would have been fine if he top decked just another back row here. We pop the Alias, we float the Dialk into the Thunder King, and then we're actually chilling. But unfortunately, he top decks the 1 card that fucking kills us immediately on this turn, whatever, and then he's just able to Miracle and take over the game. Unfortunate. Very unfortunate. So we did misplay. It did cost us the game, and then on top of that, the opponent did get very lucky. They hit some very important top decks on the right turns. They top decked the Skill Drain when they needed it, they top decked the Hero Blast when they needed it, and they top decked the Future Fusion exactly when they needed it. So I think that their play was a little bit sloppy this game. I noticed that they were willing to set Miracle Fusion. I noticed that they activated Skyscraper when they didn't need to play further into Heavy Storm. They might have thought that they needed to summon Captain Gold with Skyscraper in play, but they actually had Skill Drain face up, so they were probably just hedging against Space Typhoon. So I have some information on my opponent, and I go ahead and sideboard. And the way I sideboard in this matchup is I do bring in 2 DD Crow, because this card always trades 1-for-1 with Hero Blast very effectively. Basically banishes the Alias, it sticks to my game plan. I do bring in the Cyber Dragons as well, and I do bring in Kaiku as well as Dust Tornadoes and Deep Prisons. So I board in a full, 9 cards in this matchup, I believe? Yeah, I board in a full 9 cards. There's temptation to board in Pulling the Rug, but Pulling the Rug has potential to be dead. You don't want a dead back row in this matchup because it just gives them targets to spark, basically. And it also is something that sits around and makes it awkward for you to Heavy Storm. I usually side out Royal Oppression. I usually side out some of my other shittier cards. I side out 1 Christia because I don't want to play into Royal Oppression as much. Plus, I'm trying to be more low to the ground, like aggressive deck with Cyber Dragons and like faster threats. Christia is kind of a slower threat. You don't really want too many of them in this matchup. I do side down on Dialks. I side down on Heralds. I go down to 1 Herald, I believe. I think I go down to 1 Dialk as well. I side out some Book of Moons. I do side out the Call of the Haunted, I think. And I think I might even side out... I don't remember. But that's basically what I side in this matchup. You want to side down to be streamlined against Light Imprisoning and other shit. And Cyber Dragon, Soul of Purity, and Light is your game plan. You just want to have a slightly bigger monster than theirs, and you want to force it through. That's pretty much it. In this game, I have a very nice opening hand. I think it's a very nice opening hand because Honest will guaranteedly buy me time against anything that's not specifically Captain Gold or Cyber Dragon, for which I have a Bottomless Trap Hole, so I'm actually big chillin'. And then the top deck's actually DD Warrior Lady. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and set Heavy Storm and set Bottomless and summon DD Warrior Lady. Here, he's going to E-Call, I believe? No, he summons Stratos. I said in my head, basically, at this point, if he summons Stratos, I'm going to trade Honest with it. I think it's the best Honest is going to get. And then it can also initiate this position where if he summons Alias and I Bottomless it, he has another target that's not my Heavy Storm, which is the DD Warrior Lady. And it's a high-value target. So he's going to Gemini Spark the DD Warrior Lady if he does that. I'm thinking like fucking 6 moves ahead here, basically. So he's going to go Stratos. He's going to search Alias. He's going to attack. I'm going to drop Honest. On my turn, I'm going to attack for 15. He's not going to do anything about it. He's going to, on his turn, summon that Alias. I'm going to Bottomless. He's going to Spark the DD Warrior Lady. He's going to set his back row. I'm going to flip Heavy Storm. I'm going to Kaiku his only fucking whatever Alias. If he has a Chain Hero Blast, I have a Crow for it. And then I'm going to be winning the position completely. So that's basically my plan here. Goes ahead and grabs the Alias. He attacks the DD Warrior Lady. And then Honest activates. All according to plan, basically. He sets a couple of back row, setting a bluff E-Call. Again, playing into the Pro Heavy Storm because I knew he set bluffs from the previous game. I have information about my opponent. I draw another DD Crow, which isn't the best, but at the very least, it'll keep the aliases, off my back. I attack for 15. He lets this happen. And then I pass the turn. He's also already down to 5,000 life points. So if I ever find my second Honest or just more ways to get in damage, like Soul of Purity and Light plus 2 monsters is game, or like a small return is game now. So I actually have him in a game shot for a long game as well. He goes ahead and he summons the Alias. He needs to get it in the grave for this Hero Blast that he has. I go ahead and Bottomless. He chains Spark, targets my DD Warrior Lady. He picks up Light Mirror, and then he goes full greed because I had set 2 back row, thinks I do not have Heavy Storm. And this is why the Pro Storm is called the Pro Storm, because you get people trying to get too cute like this. Go ahead and pass the turn. He probably should have flipped the E-Call to hedge now. Probably should have grabbed another Alias now or grabbed an Ocean now. But he gets big fucking punished here. I flip Heavy Storm, and he just concedes. He didn't have to concede there because he could have chained Hero Blast and tried to grab back Alias, but I would have crowed it, and then I would have hit him with the Kaiku, and I had Bottomless for his next summon, and that would have been the game. So he could have played that one out, though. He did have Honest to stall out on. I think our position was very favored, though. After that Heavy Storm 4-for-1, I think we were definitely favorites to win there, especially with banishing both his monsters, cutting off his miracles and stuff. This game, he starts off with a bunch of back row. I start off with Shining Angel, Raikou, Mirror Force, Bottomless, which is an amazing starting hand. I have 1 Christia in my deck, and I drew it with a Shining Angel, which is exactly where you want to draw it. He draws Kaiku. In general, Kaiku's pretty fucking bad against the Fairy deck. It can be okay at stopping Soul of Purity and Light and Freed, but for the most part, you're just setting up their Dialk, and then the Dialk will just crash with the Kaiku. It's pretty bad. And for the most part, you're just giving them something that has low attack points for the Angel to crash into or DD Warrior Lady to trade with. It's just not a great card in this matchup, in my opinion. If anything, you're probably helping them more than you're hurting them in post-board situations because they board down on Christias and Call of the Haunted as well. He sets D-Prison and passes the turn. I top deck a Soul of Purity and Light, and I'm like, oh, this hand's cash money. I'm going to set Raikou, and I'm going to set nothing else and pass. The reason you set nothing else and pass here is if he has Alias and he has Spark, you don't want to Bottomless and have him, spark your Raikou. You just want the Raikou to trade with the back row. On the next turn, you can Angel, crash with the Alias, go get DD Warrior Lady, banish that, special Christia main 2. Again, playing for the position. Raikou pops the lone set. Next turn, if they have Alias, it's a Christia plus game-ending banish on the Alias. So, again, positionally, this is the way you want to play. We have a turn 2 kill if he fucks this up, more or less. He does nothing and passes, and I'm like, all right. I pick up Heavy Storm, and I'm like, hell yeah, that card's insane. So I flip Raikou, pop the back row, because that's the plan, right? And I mill 2 lights, so I'm like, fuck it, let's full send. I summon both my monsters. This deck isn't really known for its ability to Wrath decks outside of using Absolute Zero, And since he hasn't summoned a single fucking monster, I'm thinking that this is just going to be 3,600 points of damage that is uncontested, more or less. So I go for it, and then at this point in time, I set nothing. I don't want to set either of my trap cards into my own Heavy Storm. I don't really care if an Alias gets summoned here. It doesn't get over Soul. It doesn't really get over Angel in an effective manner. And next turn, I'm probably going to Heavy Storm and just go for game. So that's the plan. Here, he summons Kaiku, attacks the Raikou, tries to banish the Raikou, but you can't do that because you actually take damage while the monster is in play. Kaiku would activate while the monster is in play. Then the monster is destroyed. So you actually don't get to banish the monster you destroy with Kaiku. And this is just like exactly case in point why Kaiku is bad here. We only take 1,300 because Soul of Purity and Light decreases his attack points. He goes ahead and sets 3, and then you know what's going to happen here. I'm going to fucking Heavy Storm, and he's going to leave the game. This deck's insane. This deck's insane. I mean, look how much pressure this was. This was turn 2 pressure, and he had to have an answer to it, and he just didn't, and he lost. The deck is very fast. If your opponent doesn't, like, do anything about it, it just kills him out of nowhere. The next game is against Batel. I am playing Fairy, and he is playing, I believe, some sort of, like, quick draw plants deck. It's a weird quick draw plants deck, though. It's playing hero cards, and it's playing... I don't know. It's just an interesting deck. It's a very interesting deck, and we get fucking kind of rolled game 1. My opening hand's actually really good. It's a little awkward because Freed and DD Warrior Lady don't work super well together, and I need to Herald before my Freed's actually live, but I think I just set DD Warrior Lady and pass here. I don't want to set Book and be forced to use it before I want to Gores. I think just setting DD Warrior Lady is okay. He goes for Lone Fire into Dandy. Titaniel's in hand. That gives me a little bit of information. I'm like, okay, he has Titaniel in hand. Either that or he wants to set up for a Caius. We have Herald of Orange Light if he's setting up for a Caius. And if he's setting up for a Titaniel, it's best to just banish the Dandelion with our DD Warrior Lady. Thankfully, he doesn't set any back row. So we go ahead and flip our DD Warrior Lady, summon the Freed, because I think I can Herald a Gores here and then just be in a commanding position. So I'm just going to DD Warrior Lady banish this shit. And I also don't think he has a Gores because he went into Dandelion. I don't set anything, I don't think. Yeah, I don't set anything. He top decks Future Fusion, which is the most broken card in this fucking game. So yeah, that's a free win card. And he has Solemn Judgment to back it up. And that's kind of how this game goes. I make a valiant effort here to try and play around shit, but there's only so much I can do. He sets the Tomato and sets the Solemn Judgment. A little bit of lag prevented him from setting the Solemn Judgment there, but it's not going to matter. I don't think I proc it this turn anyway. I attack the Tomato. I don't Herald this because I'm like, I might need the Herald to stop Absolute Zero's effect, but then he grabs Gale, and I'm like, fuck. Okay. More or less. Gale halves the Freed, and I'm like, shit, there goes my Freed. He got me no value. Actually was just a -1, the worst kind of Freed. So I maybe played a little too aggressively with him this game, but I was a little nervous. I was like, if the opponent's able to summon a Titanial, like, the Freed's going to be bad anyway. So here we are in the top deck Sangan, which just means that this board is very resilient to Mirror Force, which is whack. And then he attacks for 1,000. I'm like, fuck me, right? I top deck Brain Control, and I'm like, okay, that'll help me out the Absolute Zero in the worst case scenario in that he has Solemn. He goes ahead and special summons Absolute Zero, top decks DDR, which is an insane card to have here because he has a great pitch for it. And then he also has a target, so it's kind of ridiculous at this point in time. He does attack. I do Mirror Force, and he does have Solemn Judgment. And I'm like, all right, I got to take all this damage then because I can't really do anything else. It's possible I should have bottomless the Absolute Zero and tried to Mirror Force the other cards, but I wanted to save the bottomless for the Titanial that he can normal summon this turn. He can tribute summon the Titanial, so I'm like, wanted to save it pretty much. Go ahead and take a ton of damage here. Drop really low. The Recruiters actually get really bad. The Brain Control gets really bad, and the Gores is basically dead at this point. So our whole hand is pretty much shut off. We have a million options here, and most of them suck. I think the best one is just try to use the Brain Control, trade the Gale with the Absolute Zero, and then main phase 2, set Nova Summoner, and try to back it up with Herald of Orange Light, which is what I do. I attack over the Absolute Zero, and that pops Future Fusion, and then I set my monster. Here, they activate the Malicious. This is the Titanial coming that I know about. They double tribute for the Titanial, and I do have the bottomless for that. So they are able to Sangan and search for Deep Sea Diva. And this is just telling me more about their deck. I'm like, okay, they've got Diva, they've got Snowman, they've got plants for some reason. I don't know why they've got the plants, and they've got Mystic Tomato. So I'm thinking maybe they're on a Mark of the Rose package. And this is something I'm keeping in mind for the time being, basically. They go ahead and Miracle Fusion, and I'm just like, fuck me. I am super getting fucked here. Special summon the Absolute Zero. And then they DDR pitch fucking Dandelion, bring back Titanium. And then at this moment in time, I actually, in response to the Dandelion effect, need to book the Absolute Zero to even stay alive this turn. So I do chain in response to Dandy, target the Absolute Zero with my Book of Moon. Because Nova Summoner can't get another Nova Summoner in this list, I only have 2 Nova Summoners. I need to keep a monster in play, so I have to book the Absolute Zero this turn. I think this play is okay. I also need to top deck a fairy, by the way. So I need a few things to go right to even be in this game at this point. But yeah, he attacks into it. Didn't need to do that at all for any reason. We grab Dialk because I think Dialk, it might get me somewhere. I'm not really sure. I don't know. I just wanted to banish an extra card in case I found return or whatever. So I grab Dialk, and then I do actually top deck a fairy, which is very nice. So I'm able to actually summon the Herald here, and I need the opponent to actually fuck up. Basically, what I need them to do is I need them to Titanial, negate my Bryonic. I need them to actually do that. So instead of attacking over the 2 tokens, which is the quote-unquote optimal play, I make an intentional misplay to bait my opponent into also misplaying. I synchro into Bryonic first, instead of attacking over both tokens. I synchro into Bryonic, and I go to... Well, there's a couple of different plays, right? I guess I could have synchroed into Bryonic and pitched Herald to try and bounce bounce Titanial after I attack over the 2 tokens. They tribute Titanial to negate, and then we special Christia, add back something. But then we're dead to absolute 0 crash plus whatever else, because we only have 1 fairy in our hand. We have to pitch the Herald of Orange Light. So I think this is the best play to get me out of this situation, which is basically just make Bryonic, bounce the Absolute Zero, which is face down, which won't trigger because it's leaving the field while face down, pitching the Dead Cores, and then when they try to negate with the Titanial, we can Herald of Orange Light the Titanial and actually have the position, actually have Bryonic. Now I know they have Deep Sea Diva in hand, and I know that that can make a Catastor, but that's it. It can make a Catastor, and that gives us another draw towards being in this game. So I think this is actually the best play. Even though it is technically suboptimal play, it baited the opponent into making a misplay, which happened, and I'm able to attack over the token and end with a similar position, but instead I actually have a Bryonic in play as opposed to having Christia versus an Absolute Zero, which I think is a much worse position, and completely lost because he just summons Diva and then attacks over the Christia, and here we are. So yeah, he special summons the evil guy, and unfortunately he has another way to convert off of this. He goes ahead and summons a Diva, grabs Gilman. At this point in time, he can make Armory Arm equipped to the Gilman and run over the Bryonic for game. He doesn't do that. He just makes Power Tool and reveals more information about his deck. So he shows me triple Mark of the Rose, and I'm like, okay, that's a fuck ton of bricks. He's got 2 Malicious. He's got Titanial. He's definitely got Caius's because he's got the evil guy. He's got fucking Miracle Fusions. And then he's got triple Mark of the Rose plus some amount of DDR. And then I said, this game, you will not have Future Fusion Solemn, which is funny. This is me saying, you will not have the 2 cards that make everything live this game. And yeah, this game is going to showcase the power of our deck once we can streamline it. I brought in, I believe, the Dust Tornadoes and the Kaiku, which shuts off not only Miracle Fusion and Malicious, but Mark of the Rose as well. So it guaranteedly shuts off at least 8 cards in his deck. Definitely one of the best cards to bring in this matchup. I have Return, I have Dialk. I actually have a really good opening hand. And I make a very disciplined play. Yes, I can summon Dialk and try to blind mill something, but that shuts off my Herald, which I don't want to do. I also shut off my own Cyber Dragon, which I don't want to do because that's my pressure through Snowman Eater. So I just set Torrential and pass. You don't want to set Return until it's live in this deck. That's pretty much it. You just don't want to do it until it's live. This card is a Soul Charge. It wins the game if it resolves. You don't want to set it and expose it to removal and whatever unless you absolutely have to for whatever reason. He summons Gilman, and I'm like, that's fine. My whole hand attacks over that. I don't need a Torrential here. He goes ahead and attacks for 17. I'm like, sure. Sets his back row, which is Solemn Judgment. At this point in time, I special summon Cyber Dragon. He lets it happen. I'm like, all right. Maybe he has a sweeper. I'll summon Dialk and try to blind mill. I'll tempt a sweeper. Because if he does have a sweeper, fine. I still have Kaiku, which it should solo at least 25% of his deck. So that, and if I do hit a monster, then playing in a Mirror Force here is actually not that bad. I don't hit a monster, unfortunately. I hit Royal Oppression. I sided in the second one against this deck, by the way, because I want it to be a more low-to-the-ground stun deck that can special a Sidra and then set an Oppression and just crush people from there, instead of being like a Christia Lockout deck, because Christia Lockout, not very effective against Mark of the Rose. I'll say it. It's not very effective. So we attack with both monsters here, deal 1800, and then I pass the turn. Return's not live. He goes special Evil Guy, Tribute Summon Caius, and this is exactly what I was talking about. Herald of Orange Light. against Caius the Shadow Monarch. It's just, it's an instant win. It's an instant win. You can't interact with it. You have to play into it. It took his normal summon. It's a 2 for 2, and then everything's gone. Everything is destabilized. He can't do anything at this point. Solemn Judgment is dead because if he casts it, he dies immediately. I'm able to just normal summon the Kaiku. I know he doesn't have a sweeper. He would have used it last turn. And now the Dialk's actually live, so if he does have a sweeper, at the very least, I'm getting back Herald. And Return's also live. I attack with everything. He drops to 100, and that's just the game. I mean, you can't do anything against Kaiku with this deck. So, game 3. Game 3, I have Christia, which I don't know why I left in. I might have left in 1 because I didn't have enough to bring in or whatever. But that's where I was at. And I opened the fucking trifecta of broke-ass trap cards. I've got Solemn, Return, Oppression, and I've got Dialk to make the Return live. Plus, I've got a Herald to back everything up. So I'm just like, fuck yeah. Let's go. Dialk, activate. Banish another Dialk. I am fucking living. It's the best thing in the world to hit another Dialk off of Dialk. Because you know that chain's going to keep going. And Dodge is Bottomless. Bottomless is a bad card to have in this matchup. You got to side it out against Fairies. It's very bad. It doesn't stop any of the openers except DD Warrior Lady. And then they just book it, and then you're forced to like 2 for 1 yourself, more or less, a lot of the time, to get over the DD Warrior Lady. Hits for 18, set my 3 cards, pass the turn. He has Heavy Storm, but I have Solemn fucking broken-ass Judgment, so I activate that, and yeah, he just forced to set his Mirror Force, but Mirror Force against an active Dialk, yeah, it's not good. It's not good. We activate Dialk again. This Return is getting even more insane. You can see why this card is ridiculous. It's already ridiculous. Already, for the 2 cards it's bringing back, it's ridiculous. The fact that we have a live Herald too just means we're never losing this position. We also drew Raikou too, which means that Brain Control now no longer a threat to us. Now no longer a threat. We can just set the Raikou and pass the turn. He did find Future Fusion, but this game we have Royal Oppression, so we're able to just stop that immediately, and that would have turned on his engine. It would have got him, Dandelion and Grave, but as it stands, he can't really afford to do anything. He's dropping low. This Royal Oppression is suddenly not going to be an option for him. At this point in time, I just activate the Dialk and keep attacking. There's no reason to do anything different. Just keep pressuring. I don't need to flip the Raikou into a Torrential and lose my entire position. I don't need to do anything. I can just keep passing. He has a Dust Tornado for the Oppression. Too little, too late, pretty much. I've got Herald. I've got Return. Game's over. I just activated Alchemist, and now at this point, he drops to 800. Can't use Oppression. Soul's live. Christia's live. Return's live. Game's over, pretty much. I attack for 18. Again, don't even need to play into Torrential. Not flipping this Return. I'm just like, I'll do it when I need to. He finds Snowman Eater, sets it. I'm just like, all right, I'll just Raikou pop the monster, and we'll see what happens. I mill 3 cards. He has no Torrential. I Dialk activate again. I'm like, maybe I can kill him this turn. Dialk attack. He goes Mirror Force. I'm like, that's fine. I'll just activate the Dialk, add back my guy, set my DD Warrior Lady. Playing way too safe, honestly, but I could have returned at this point and just gone for game. I'm just playing around like a lot of different stuff at this point. I didn't want to blow the Return and then him have like, I don't know, Torrential and then kill me because I'm at 1600 or something. But realistically, that's never really happening because I still have Normal Summon plus Soul plus Herald to back it all up. So realistically, I'm big chilling here. He sets Plague Spreader, but the game's over at this point. I mean, he just died to a Dialk hitting him for 10 turns. And that's just how this deck works. You can't effectively use your back row. Bottomless Trap Hole's dead. Mirror Force was bad. You can't effectively use the cards that interact with my monsters. My monsters are better than your monsters. I can lock you out with Royal Oppression. I can lock you out with Christia. Even if you get through that, I've had Herald the entire game. So even if they made it through that, the position was unwinnable for them. That's pretty much it. And that's the strength of the Fairy deck, more or less. And the last replay I wanted to show you guys is actually one where I'm not playing the Fairy deck. It's a game against Jake Finney. I'm playing Dragons, and he's playing the Fairy deck. This is quite the funny game. This is quite the funny game. I might have even clickbaited it in the title. I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure. In any case, I had hosted saying Edison format competitive, please, because I do want tournament testing. And he pulls up with fucking 10 card extra deck. So, Jake, my boy, my guy, you have 10 cards in your extra deck. That is not competitive. Fill out your extra deck. At the very least, it is not competitive because you are telling me that you don't care enough to put the full 15 in your extra deck, and it's bad. You're giving me information about your deck. You're giving me information about you as a player. It's not good. It's not a good thing. And plus, you just have less options to pull from in a deck that actually pretty regularly synchro summons. Another thing is he has included Reinforcement of the Army. I get questions about this card all the fucking time. Basically, theoretically speaking, it is a bad addition. The reason why is because you are cutting a card from your deck that is either one of your key interactive cards, like let's say you're cutting a Book of Moon. Would you cut a Book of Moon for Rhoda? No, because you already have DD Warrior Lady. You have 7 copies, right? You have 3 Shining Angel, Nova Summoner, and you have 3 DD Warrior Lady. So you already have 7 copies of DD Warrior Lady. You don't really need an 8th copy of DD Warrior Lady in the Book of Moon slot. And if you're cutting a monster, then you're making your deck lower monster count. You're making your mills worse off Dialk and Raikou. And you're also just making yourself weak to your own Thunder Kings. It's not a good card in this deck for a lot of reasons. The modal option between Frida and DD Warrior Lady never comes up. It literally never comes up when you're playing this deck. It comes up way more often that this card is dead into your own Thunder King or that you mill it blind. That comes up almost all the time. And the fact that you want a modal DD Warrior Lady or whatever, you have to cut a real card to add reinforcement to the army. And you would rather not do that. You'd rather play a full copy of everything, basically. His opening hand's pretty fucking good, all things considered, though. And our opening hand's insane. So we open Future Fusion, and I'm going to activate it. And what's crazy here is that our opponent concedes the game, which I don't agree with. I actually think he's winning here, which is insane. And the reason I wanted to show this replay is he said he's conceding to conceal information about his deck. But why would you concede this game when your hand is winning? All you do is just Rhoda for DD Warrior Lady, summon it, trade with my red med. Then what do? My red med is banished. You still have Honest for the 5-head. You have Bottomless for the 5-head, or whatever dragon I go with next. You have a Live Herald. You have Nova Summoner. You're fine. Your 5 cards beats my card. Your 5 card beats my opening. That's how insane this fairy deck is. Your opponent can activate literal fucking painful choice, special summon a free 2800 monster, and DD Warrior Lady handles the whole thing on her own. That's how insane it is. So I actually think this concession is absolutely premature from Jake Finney. And it's pretty funny because I said, good luck, have fun. I said, I host competitive and you bring 10 card extra deck. He said, I'll shit on you, dude. Trust. And then proceeds to concede from an incredibly winning position. Crazy. Crazy that people are like this. And it's funny too because people aren't like this to me when I'm on my main account. But when I'm on my alt accounts, I get a lot more people like this. It's kind of weird. Like, oh, people are very nice. They're like, oh, big fan, whatever. And it's funny too because this guy's playing the fairy deck, which is a deck I personally popularized and innovated. And the only reason people are playing Nova Summoner in this deck in the first place is because of me. So it's funny. It's just funny because this guy is very clearly a fan of the deck, very clearly a fan of the channel, but he wants to be an asshole to the person who built his deck, which it's really, really funny. And I was like, I'm trusting you to be competitive with 10 card extra, because you never know. Like 10 card extra, maybe he's playing Burn, maybe he's playing Monarchs, maybe not. And then he proceeds to fucking green text me on Dueling Book. Bro, this isn't 4chan. Like, get the fuck out of here. Brings Helmet deck and opens Busted One of. It's not even that busted of an opening. Your DD Warrior Lady answers it. So I'm like, and I was like, oh, so now you're going to whine LeMayo after he said he would shit on me, which is super funny. He said, you're so good. Pat yourself on the back for opening Future Fusion. I bet you played 3 of it to make yourself look better. I'm going to be honest with you, buddy. I didn't. I didn't play 3 of it. And I said, I bet you watch my YouTube channel, which is funny because he obviously does. In any case, I banish Red Eyes Wyvern, bring back the Red Eyes, and I pass. And he has an insane hand. And he concedes with it. I don't fucking get it, man. Just summon Nova Summoner, crash 4 times, special Christia. I lose the game on the spot. The game ends. I can't do anything. This guy's so fucking bad. It's just really funny too, because like people are like, oh, the fairy's a bad deck, and then they concede in the face of certain things. That it's just play the game out, man. You would have won. So he admitted defeat, even though he had a completely winning hand. He called me a slur too, which is awesome. Just really love to see that. Don't talk like this on Dueling Book. In general, I'll probably just get you banned. Our opening hand this game is actually really fucking good for a lot of reasons. And his opening hand is actually really fucking good too. The fairy deck's opening hands always look really fucking good. I'm going to be real, even with 10 extra deck cards. He goes ahead and he finds DD Warrior Lady, and he has a nice start here. He just has Thunder King set Torrential. Now, I'm not sure I would have set the Torrential here. You don't actually need to. You can just summon Thunder King, and it's the same. You're never Torrentialing anything on the first turn of the game that you can't Thunder King anyway. You can Thunder King a Red Eyes, The The only thing you're trenchling is if I open specifically Future Fusion, in which case you get fucked. But at the same time, if I open Future Fusion, you have brain control to take my monster, and then you can just go for game. So I actually don't think that you should set the torrential here. I think it's a misplay. I go ahead and find Upstart. I Upstart into my Red Eyes, and I'm like, all right, my hand's all right. I'm just going to T-set and set the Oppression 2, basically. Mirror Force can maybe get a 2-for-1 if he summons another monster, gets greedy, and Oppression can stop him from doing anything too unfair, like synchroing, basically. Mass Dragon will guaranteedly get this fucking Thunder King out of here, so we're big chillin'. He attacks the Mass Dragon. I'm like, I'm just going to get another Mass Dragon. I'm going to play it kind of chill. I don't need to get a totem quite yet. I want to see if he does something to try to out this Mass Dragon, like destroy it or whatever, and then I can get value out of my body as a shield. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult for me to get value out of this my body as a shield. So he sets a Raikou, and I'm like, the only thing you would set here that you wouldn't have summoned is you would have done some other stuff. So I'm like pretty sure that that's a Raikou, more or less. If it was a DD Warrior Lady, you probably would have switched Thunder King to defense. Some of the DD Warrior Lady tried to attack the set that way. This set is definitely a Raikou. So my play this turn is actually not to crash the Mass Dragon. It's just to set my body as a shield and bait him into flipping the Raikou on the Mass Dragon, which he does. And we get value out of my body as a shield. And that's exactly what happens. So nice. He summons DD Warrior Lady, plays into our Mirror Force. So this guy's fucking trash, by the way. If you want to win with fairies, he could have won this game like much more convincingly. Just switch your Thunder King to defense here. You have Book of Moon to defend it, and I can't special summon because you can just negate that with Thunder King. So just switch your Thunder King to defense. You don't need to play into Mirror Force here. You don't need to play 2-for-1 into it. So I go for the Mirror Force. He Book of Moons his Thunder King, which I actually think is a bad play. I think you should Book of Moon your DD Warrior Lady. DD Warrior Lady guaranteedly outs the Mass Dragon, which is the card you know about. Thunder King only outs cards you don't know about, or I potentially might not even have. So he books his Thunder King and goes ahead and flips the Thunder King main 2, and I'm like, I can just kill this with my Mass Dragon. Whereas I couldn't do that with the DD Warrior Lady. DD Warrior Lady would have banished this, so I think it's better to preserve the DD Warrior Lady. Or could have chosen not to banish it, basically. You could have just left the DD Warrior Lady set. We pick up Totem Dragon. That's a nice one, so I just chill out for a turn. I don't need to do anything too crazy. Here he sets another monster off the top before shuffling his hand. You already know what kind of players these are. These are the kind of players that go on and they look at my spreadsheet video yesterday and they're like, oh, Fairies is the best deck. And then they input the deck into their deck builder and they forget to finish out their extra deck. And then they just start making stupid plays. And then they come back and then they fucking mango typers in my fucking comment section and they're like, yo, Fairies is not a good deck. Fairies is shit. Why do you always say Fairies is the best deck? It's because you're probably playing like this. That's probably the reason why you think Fairies is a bad deck. If you're playing like this, you're never going to win a match. That's pretty much how it's going to go. If you're conceding 1 games, if you're doing other shit, the deck is fucking insane. You saw it. It was going second against a turn 1 Future Fusion, and it could have very easily won that game. But as you see it now, I mean, the guy's just like playing so suboptimally and giving me free games, giving me free wins. The deck doesn't carry you. It's not going to hold your hand. That's the reason why most people don't play Fairies. That's another thing people were asking. It's like, why do people not play this deck? Okay, here's the Mass Dragon attacking the Thunder King Ryo, and then we're going to go ahead and grab the Exploder Dragon and just kill the Thunder King, and then main phase 2, I'm just going to set Wyvern, I think. No, I set Totem. I said Totem because I know he said another Raikou. That's such a fucking dirty bait. That's such a dirty bait. I'm in this guy's head. So I've now outplayed him on the My Body, I've outplayed him on the Mirror Force, and I'm outplaying him on the fucking Raikou flip. And it still doesn't matter. I mean, I've outplayed him 3 times, and the deck is still just fucking running me over. The Fairy deck is so fucking good, dude. Mill's a Fairy, and now I'm like, okay, now I know what he's on. And up until this point, I didn't know what he was on. I thought he could have been on Stun, he could have been on anything, but now that I see Herald of Orange Light, it's only in 1 deck. It's only in the Fairy deck, and I'm like, wow, you really didn't fill out your extra deck when you're maining 3 tuners and 4 recruiters to grab them and return from the different dimension. What the fuck are you doing, bro? Just copy and paste the deck list. It's on the channel. It's not like you have to pay money to input cards on Dueling Book. Fucking cringe, man. Okay, and then he summons Nova Summoner, and I'm like, that's fine. I can just set Wyvern. He can't really get over anything. He attacks with both my cards. I can also just go for a play next turn where I True Nade, bring back my dudes, and then do some stuff. I pick up Drago, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of heat, too. He has Torrential and Bottomless both set. That Torrential's still set for very awkward. Imagine if I had Heavy Storm here, right? The Torrential would have never had a chance to be good, so it's clearly good to keep it in your hand until the position is correct. Huge misplay, in my opinion. Doesn't end up costing the opponent too much. We're going to Totem Dragon. We're going to go ahead and True Nade, bounce back the cards. Here, I normal summon Red Eyes Darkness Metal, and this is a mistake. I probably should have special summoned it and then activated the effect. I was playing really conservatively. I was like, I'm just going to summon one Red Eyes. Maybe one of his back row was a Mirror Force, because I haven't really had a chance to run into a Mirror Force yet. Plus, he just set that new back row, so it could have been a Mirror Force. I don't want to commit too much of my board into a Mirror Force. In hindsight, I probably should have just gone balls deep. I mean, I use the True Nade now. It's not going to get much better into multiple back row. I should have special summoned this Red Eyes, special summoned a Mass, special summoned the second Red Eyes, special summoned Exploder, normal summon Drago, and then just gone for a really big turn this turn and just said, fuck it, if you have Honest, you have Honest over the Raikou. But instead, I made too passive of a play. So my tiny misplay cost me, and his 16 misplays didn't cost him shit. Unfortunately, he goes for Soul. I have Royal Oppression, but he has broken Brain Control, which is going to kill us because we're too low. And he did top deck a normal summon too in order to kill us. So there's that, which is great. And that just shows, like, the Fairy deck just kills you out of nowhere. It's also really good against Royal Oppression. Of course, this game I did side out the Royal Oppressions. I did tune my deck list to be more attuned for Fairies, and his hand is actually still fucking crazy insane. Looks really good. I am playing DD Warrior Lady in my Dragon list. I'll actually show the Dragon list after I'm done going over this replay, so you guys can see what I've been doing with Dragons lately. I Upstart Goblin into Bottomless Trap Hole. I go ahead and just set Bottomless and Typhoon. I set Prison and Typhoon in case he summons a Recruiter. Yeah, that's right. Bottomless is only here for Thunder King. Normally I say side out Bottomless against Fairies, but Thunder King fucks Dragons. It's really good against Dragons, so you do need Bottomless for that. Of course, I want to have the Typhoon live in case he goes ahead and proactively sets Raikous like he's been known to do. And then I want to have D-Prison set in case he pokes me with a Recruiter. He finds a Raikou and he sets it. And so I'm thinking, at this point, the only card you're not attacking here with is Raikou. So I'm not going to set any of my further back row. I'm going to give him a 50-50. You're either hitting some chainable or you're not. And he also makes the mistake, again, of setting the Torrential Tribute and setting his other cards further. Even though he has a Raikou, which he's going to flip into my back row, which could be Dust or Torrential, or not Torrential, Dust or Typhoon, he sets his back row here. You don't need to set any of these right now. The only one you can make an argument for is Royal Oppression to stop specifically Future Fusion. That's the only one you can make an argument for. But Torrential Tribute, Call of the Haunted isn't live. You don't need to set it here. Torrential Tribute, whatever. You don't need to set it here. You can wait until these cards are live to set them. We top deck Prime Material, kind of awkward. I just pass. I'm like, he's going to flip the Raikou. He's going to get a 50-50. And that's exactly what happens. And he misses on the 50-50 because he misplayed setting his back row. I'm going to hit the one closest to his deck randomly, and it just happens to be Call of the Haunted, which is great. He mills 3 cards, mills Thunder King and a Herald, so only 1 Fairy for his Christia as of right now. He summons Thunder King. I give him the thumbs up, but that's why we have the D-Prison set, is to catch this stupid fucking Thunder King card. There we go. D-Prison that. I top deck Trap Dust Shoot. I'm like, that's not live yet, but it will be later. I set the DD Warrior Lady. I don't want to play into Bottomless or any of the other shit. I go ahead and set the Dust Shoot now, set the D-Prison, and set the Bottomless in case he finds another monster he wants to summon into Bottomless. He finds Dust Tornado. I believe he just switches the Raikou, sets the Dust, and passes. I find Wyvern. I don't want to play too much into a sweeper. We just play Drago for a little bit. And Drago favors me because I have Dust Shoot. He top decks Heavy Storm. Makes it a little awkward that he set his Torrential yet again and set his other shit, his Royal Oppression, when he really didn't need to, into nothing. So, yeah, he pretty much plays into his own Heavy Storm. Top decks D-Prison. At this point, we are able to Dust Shoot him. We take the Christia because I don't want to give him a chance to basically double tribute for this. I think that would be a little annoying after Heavy Storming. I don't think our hand could deal with that super effectively, especially if it gets to 4 Fairies in the grave. So I think this card is just too powerful. You got to take it here. Taking Herald of Orange Light is stupid. It's like taking a -1. I'd rather my DD Warrior Lady trade with Herald and a card in hand than... You get the idea. Basically, it just passes the turn. I top deck Torrential. I keep my sweepers in hand because I know he has Heavy Storm, A, and B, I know I'm winning if I draw my Heavy Storm. So I'm just going to, chill out and flip my DD Warrior Lady. This time trying to proc some sort of back row because I have additional follow-up pressure I can play into. I attack the Raikou. He doesn't Torrential. He gets greedy here. He thinks I'm going to play into a sweeper. I have not yet shown that I'm going to play into a sweeper at any point. He sets his D-Prison. I'm like, fine. That's cool. The D-Prison I know about. Doesn't shuffle his hand. He D-Prisons the DD Warrior Lady, and at this point I'm like, I'll just set my Wyvern and chill out. He finds his own DD Warrior Lady, summons that. I Bottomless. He chains Torrential, and I'm like, I'll take that. My Wyvern goes to the grave. That's good for me. On my turn, I am able to find a Totem Dragon. I just normal summon Masked and try to attack. I do get in for 1400, and then at this point I'm thinking his back rows are probably either Return, Oppression, Bottomless, or Mirror Force. It's least likely to be D-Prison, and of course it can't be Call or Torrential. It could potentially be Solemn because he set 3, But if it's solemn, then what can you do? You got to force it somehow. I go ahead and set one more back row because I'm okay with 3 for 2 Heavy Storm. I'm okay with that. He top decks Christia again, nowhere near live. Goes ahead and just sets another card into his own Heavy Storm and passes. Unfortunately for us, it is a deep prison, so when we go for this prime material into the predicted bottomless trap hole / mirror force back rows, he does have deep prison for it, so it doesn't work out for us, unfortunately. We do get 2 for 1. I mean, you get 50-50 sometimes. We 50-50'd him earlier, he 50-50'd us here, and now the game's back to neutral. We lost our advantage from earlier, he lost his advantage earlier, it's even now. And here he does find solemn. He doesn't set it. Why? Why not set the solemn here? You already have 2 back row in your own head. Why not set the solemn here? What? Why would you set all of these other things fucking first and then not set this? I don't get it. I don't understand. You can have a turn later where you go Heavy Storm with solemn backup and then drop a Christia. Like, that's fucking insane. Why not set the solemn? I don't get it. I find Wyvern. I attack for 18. He does nothing. Goes ahead and just takes the 18. He doesn't flip either of his cards because neither of them do anything. He finds a second copy of Christia. Not going to do much here. I'm not activating any effects. I'm just Lajin mode. I find another DD Warrior Lady. I'm like, oh, that's clutch. That'll out anything. But I don't need to play in a Mirror Force because, like I said, I have the read that there's a Mirror Force. So I'm going to attack for 18 and just not set anything else. Pass the turn. He top decks Brain Control. Looks kind of bad right here, buddy. Looks kind of bad to have that Brain Control. Maybe you should have brained and tried to synchro with your Herald. Maybe. Maybe you should have tried to make something happen. I'm just saying. You have Heavy Storm. You could Heavy Storm, brain make a yugioh, set Solemn Judgment. It's not a bad spot to be in. I'm just saying. Maybe you should make a play. Maybe you should make something happen, but he doesn't. Doesn't make anything happen. So we top deck our Heavy Storm and I'm like, oh shit, now he's dead. Pretty much. I attack for 18, and then I'm going to set up for a game shot this turn by setting Book of Moon and then passing the turn. If he goes for Heavy Storm, I can book my Wyvern, which he does do. And now I can't be brain controlled. I can't be crashed into. I can't be... Those are the 2 big ones. But those are the 2 ones that I care about. We go ahead and send the other 2 backward to the graveyard. But I still have my 2 sweepers. And I still have my Heavy Storm. And I still got DD Warrior Lady. He's got Solemn. He's got Oppression. But that shit does not matter. I go ahead and just set the other Wyvern. I'm building up a board. I'm like, okay, Torrential's gone. I can afford to just commit more to the field. I don't need to switch them to attack position because Mirror Force isn't yet gone. I'm going to set my Mirror Force because my plan is he's going to try to attack me. I'm going to Mirror Force him. I'm going to Heavy Storm, and then I'm going to attack for game with both my Wyverns. That's my plan. Unfortunately, he just keeps setting his monsters, which I don't fully understand. I'm like, all right, whatever. Here I go for Heavy Storm. He Solemns, drops hella low. I draw Light and Darkness Dragon. I Tribute Summon it. I attack over a set monster. He activates Royal Oppression. Light and Darkness negates and clears Royal Oppression. When you activate continuous cards into Royal Oppression, they do get sent to the graveyard because they don't resolve. And then I attack over the Herald, so I get my nice little 2 for 2, kind of. I spend my Wyverns, but the Wyverns do have grave effects, so it's nice to have them down there. He top decks Solid Purity and Light, goes ahead and special summons that, flips Honest, and he's actually in like a pretty good spot here. All he has to do is actually not do this. He has to not activate the Honest. What he has to do is just Tribute Summon Christia. Use my own lad to blow up my own back row and stop it from being active here, and then lock me out of the game. You have Christia, you have Brain Control, you have whatever. You have how many fairies in grave at this point? Exactly 4. So if I clear the Christia, you get to special summon it again. He makes the mistake. He gets greedy. He sees, oh, you have lad. Oh, my Honest can make it 800. I can make lad weaker. No, use my own lad against me. This is why lad is a terrible card, and this is why people throw games playing the fairy deck all of the time. This is fucking insane. You know what's insane is I should have lost this match 3-0. I should have lost it 3-0, but instead he fucking just throws the game. Fucking game 1 and game 3. Just hands it to me on a silver platter. You see how busted Fairies is? Your opponent has turn 1 Future Fusion, Giga Chad. I don't care. That's how busted this deck is. They don't give a fuck. At the end, I said GG's because you know what? He did play a competitive match, kind of, I guess, if you want to say that, even though he called me a fucking slur. Please don't do that in the future, Jake Finney. I will get you banned. And then he said, fair enough. I said, next time, please fill out your extra deck. That deck really needs its synchros. I said, well played. Good luck in the future. He said, can't say you're bad. And I gave him a little heart. So his stupid backhanded compliment, I guess we take those. I beat the fuck out of him. And in fact, yes, next time when I host competitive, please do not join my game again, Jake Finney. In any case, that's gonna be it for this this video. That's gonna be it for this fairy video. It's been a wild ride. You guys got to see how fucking busted this deck is firsthand. It's fucking gross. It just beats everything. And Herald of Orange Light's fucking gross. Christie is fucking gross. Literally, all of the spell and trap cards in the deck are insane. Like, they're at their best in this deck, and DD Warrior Lady is just a ridiculous backbone. It's very hard to break through. In any case, leave a like, subscribe. Peace out, everyone.